To Egypt now, the country working to showcase its own historic artifacts, many of which are found in museums in other parts of the world. Those in Egypt's possession, though, finally have a museum with a space to house and display them properly. The Grand Egyptian Museum fully opens its doors next week. Have a look.
The Grand Egyptian Museum sets a new standard. In the entry hall looms the statue of Ramses II, the great pharaoh who ruled over the land along the Nile for decades. The 11-meter-tall piece weighs 80 tons and is 3,200 years old. 100,000 artifacts bear testimony to the different periods of millennia of cultural history.
What's really spectacular is how you can look at things that you couldn't before because there simply wasn't enough space in the Egyptian Museum at Tahrir Square.
The new landmark of Egypt lies right next to an old one, the Pyramids of Giza. For the first time since the excavation work by Egyptologist Howard Carter, all treasures from Tutankhamun's tomb have been assembled at a single location, an astounding 5,600 artifacts, including Tutankhamun's world-famous funerary mask. This iconic piece is protected by strict security measures, but visitors should get as close as possible, explains the organizer.
The lighting of the mask makes it look as though it were floating, meaning it's actually not important how thick the glass is or what its edges are like. Just the artifact itself takes center stage.
The Grand Egyptian is more than a museum. It's a place of research and a lab for conservators.
Egypt is showing it's able to really do great things in terms of science, culture and curation. Egyptology was a science basically restricted to the Northern Hemisphere for many, many years, many decades. Of course, that is in part an account of the situation in Egypt at the time. But things have also been shifting for many years.
And tourism figures are set to reflect that trend. Egypt expects 18 million visitors this year.
We're anticipating that this will increase definitely the numbers of tourists coming to Egypt by at least 10% or 20%.
There are collections of Egyptian artifacts all over the world, but the Grand Egyptian Museum is a new symbol of national identity.
Now, there is an ongoing dispute between Egypt and Germany. It's about the world-famous bust of the ancient Egyptian Queen Nefertiti. German archeologists discovered it in 1912 and took it from Egypt to Germany. It's been on display in Berlin for more than 100 years now. Egypt wants it back, and some say Egypt should get it back. Now, for more of this dispute, let's bring in Sebastian Conrad. He's a professor of modern history at the Freie Universität Berlin and author of The Queen Nefertiti's Global Career. Now, Professor Conrad, the Grand Egyptian Museum finally opens its doors and has reignited Egypt's calls for Germany to return Nefertiti. Why does this 3,000-year-old bust still stir such strong emotions?
Yeah, thanks. It's true, Nefertiti is famous. It's famous around the world, but it has a particular value for Egyptians from all walks of life, but then especially also for the Egyptian regime, the current regime, as the regimes before. They like to link Egypt's present-day identity with the ancient heritage, with the empire, the pharaohs, the pyramids. It's part of a national form of self-representation.
Now, you've said that Germany's claim to this bust, even though it was discovered by a German archaeologist, is at least very doubtful, and that you can understand Egypt's wish to see it in Cairo. Why is this dispute so complicated?
Yeah, well, it has a legal and a moral dimension. Legally, the bust was transferred to Germany according to the laws of the time. There is no real doubt about that. Even the Egyptian side does not dispute that fact. In fact, already in the 1920s, essentially, the Egyptians began to say, yes, legally, the bust moved to Germany, but morally, it should have remained in Egypt. Now, there are lots of speculations about the particular moment in which the finds were partitioned. Half of it went to Berlin, half of it remained in Egypt. But the most important aspect probably is much more fundamental, which is that the laws of the time were part of an imperialist world order. Today, no country would allow that half of the finds would be transferred to the country of the excavators. In fact, even Egypt discontinued this practice about 10 years later. So the question now is less one of legality, but more one of legitimacy.
Now, the former Egyptian antiquities chief, Zahi Hawass, is demanding a full repatriation. You've suggested a middle ground solution, international stewardship or a rotating display. Could that be a practical compromise that both sides could agree on?
It's probably a compromise that no side will agree on, I'm afraid. I think it would be a solution with a lot of appeal. It would turn Nefertiti into a World Heritage object in its very literal sense. Both sides, however, both Berlin and also Cairo, insist on full ownership. The question today, I think, is whether physical ownership, whether the question of property can really be at the heart of the discussion, or whether we need to look for new ways of dealing with cultural objects that have a life that goes way beyond Egypt and Berlin.
Now, finally, with the new Grand Egyptian Museum now open and Cairo's diplomatic pressure building, do you think that the German government will eventually have to reconsider its stance?
All right, that's a very good question. At the moment, one cannot predict such an outcome. I think what will happen is that in the coming years, the pressure will certainly increase, the pressure on the German government. Ultimately, my sense would be that the return, if you want to call it that, the return of the bust is only possible if at some point the German side thinks it in their own interest to return it. Similar to what happened with the Benin bronzes, if one convinced the German side that they want to give it back, that I think is the moment when it may happen. Whether that will happen, whether I will live to see it, is very unsure.
We'll keep watching how this dispute develops. Thank you very much, Professor Sebastian Conrad from the Freie Universität Berlin. Thank you.
Thank you.